But in Michigan, we heard that they were forced to backdate thousands of ballots. They were forced to cure ballots, even though many of them were missing signatures, addresses, or birth dates. We heard that they were told not to worry about not having a valid ID. We were heard that they were forced to process thousands of ballots after the 9 p.m. deadline. We were heard that if they came to election officials with problem ballots that needed to be invalidated, they would get scolded and told to take a 2-hour lunch. Now, this lines up with the historic low rejection rate in mail-in ballots that we have seen this election. Now, this comes after USA Today, the New York Times, and all the rest of them all predicted that we would see a historic high in mail-in ballots rejected, a historic record in mail-in ballots rejected. This comes after they all predicted that this would happen. In Georgia, they predicted that there would be over 117,000 rejected mail-in absentee ballots in that particular state alone. But that's not what we got. We got historic lows, a fraction of 1% in many of these different states. If we look at this below graph, it shows the estimated rejectable votes versus the Biden margin of victory in key swing states. You can see this graph right here. We have this up on the redelephants.com. So that's what we heard so far in Michigan. In Nevada, we heard during these hearings that almost 20,000 Nevada voters had non-Nevada voting addresses. We heard that approximately 8,000 voters had a mailing address that was non-existent. We heard that 2,400 voters legally changed their address to a different state or country. We heard that 15,000 were registered to vote at a commercial address or vacant property. We heard that 1,500 voters were listed as deceased, according to the SSA. We heard that 15,000 voters voted twice. All of those ballots that we went over in Michigan and in Nevada, those are illegal ballots. Those ballots should be completely tossed out. This is the reason why we're seeing a historic low rejection rate in mail-in ballots this time around. You understand this, right? This is very simple stuff. Now let's go to Georgia. 2,500 felons voted illegally, apparently, according to these reports. 66,000 underage and eligible people are listed as registered, and many thousands of them actually voted. Those ballots should be tossed out. 2,400 individuals who voted are listed as not registered. Those ballots should be tossed out. Over 1,000 registered voters used a P.O. box as their residential address. This is federally illegal. It's federally illegal to do that, to list a P.O. box as your residential address. And not only that, but a lot of these P.O. boxes were tied to U.S. postal facilities that didn't even have P.O. boxes at them. Many of them didn't even rent out P.O. box stations, so this doesn't make any sense. Those ballots should be tossed out. Over 10,000 deceased individuals were listed on the voter rolls, and many thousands of them returned a ballot. And this is what we saw in Michigan. This is all confirmed, by the way. This is all confirmed. You can confirm this with the death index and a variety of other ways. 9,500 of the 14,000 listed as deceased in Michigan returned a ballot. Once again, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And this is on top of the dozens of statistical and scientific analyses that prove widespread irregularities and impossibilities, the thousands of sworn affidavits, and then Biden breaking like every record in the history book. And I actually put this up on Telegram here. We have the first president ever to lose almost every single bellwether county and still win the election. The first president in 60 years to lose Ohio and Florida, yet still win the election. The first president to get the most votes in history despite his party's massive losses in the House. And this explains the huge down-ballot disparity that we saw during this election in many different swing states. He lost 19 counties that have a perfect record of predicting the outcome of every election. And he won mail-in ballots after the election at a 4-to-1 ratio on average, despite Republicans leading in mail-in ballots requested and returned in Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, and Arizona on Election Day. The only exception to that was in Georgia, where the returned number was in the lead for Democrats, but only by I think it was like 1% or something like that. But in those 4 swing states, Republicans led in mail-in ballots requested by like 10% in some cases. But somehow, after Election Day, Biden on average wins these mail-in ballots at a 4-to-1 ratio across these different swing states. It just doesn't make sense.